It's time for some more CNC. Hey gang, Bill here in the shop today, and we're gonna play with our Shapeoko 4 some more. Thank you again to the friendly people over at Carbide 3D and my buddy Winston for hooking me up with the Shapeoko 4. I've been learning a lot, getting a lot of practice. We did this sign, this winking skeever sign. Turned out great. But we also helped out our friend Allie Spagnola. She was in town recently. We did an outrageous project together, and the sign for it, we CNC'd it out of wood, and it turned out great. One beer sign ready to go. Ta-da!
That's so cool. A robot did that.
The robot did it for us.
Wow.
All
It's
right.
exactly what you wanted. It just did that.
Mm-hmm.
How cool.
Perfect. So, I've got another CNC project on the docket for today, something small, but made out of metal. That's right, we're gonna make a Star Trek communicator, my favorite, Brittany's favorite too. Of course, the DS9/Voyager one, because they shared the same, I believe the same outfits and everything. We're gonna make it out of brass and aluminum. We're gonna cut both of those things out on the Shapeoko 4 CNC machine. But to get started, we're gonna need a 3D model, and I wanna give you a little tutorial on how to make this. I'm doing all my work here in Fusion 360, and of course we have a course on Fusion 360 for sale over on our website right now if you wanna get the full look at this, but a quick tutorial on how to model our Combadge. I've got a reference image. I believe this is a screen used one I found somewhere on the internet. I have to scale it. We're going to calibrate this image. I know that it is 47 millimeters from the top to the bottom based on all the references I have gone over, about right there. And I can tell the image, that's 47 millimeters, and it will scale the whole thing up. So now anything I draw on this should be to scale. Next is just drawing some sketches. So I'm gonna start a new sketch right on this plane here. And we basically have three things to make. We have these winglings here. We've got this outer, I don't know, spaceship looking shape. And we've got the inner silver part. So we're gonna draw all three of those using a lot of the sort of basic tools. We've got most of the outlines drawn that we need, but something to keep in mind, this is going to be cut out with a bit that has a diameter of just over 3 millimeters. So this inner round part right here needs to be at least that. So I've made it a little bit bigger, 3.2 millimeter, so that that round bit can come in and actually get at that. If I made it any smaller, it wouldn't even be able to reach it. The last thing we have is the plate that's going to go in here. So this whole piece will be brass, and then just this surface here will be made out of aluminum from a separate piece. And we're going to do an offset, and we're going to create another line just inside of that. We're going to make it like 0.1 millimeter, maybe 0.2 millimeter offset. So there's a tiny bit of a gap between those two parts so that they should fit together really nice-like. Now that I have all of my lines drawn, I can start extruding to make the actual parts. And I'm working from a piece of 1/4 inch thick brass. In fact, it is 6.65 millimeters thick. So that's roughly how much thickness we have to work with. Next, now that we have our lines drawn, we can start extruding them to make this 3-dimensional. So I'm selecting all the faces that I want to extrude, and we'll do everything that's not a through hole like that. And then we'll just do multiple extrudes until it's all done. So let's make this 3 millimeters tall. We have 6 to work with. Let's make it like 2.5. All of the basic modeling is done. I extruded a separate part here for the insert. That'll be made out of aluminum. And there is a tiny gap between there, so it should fit all nicely. Now the last thing we want to do is just add some fillets to sort of pretty everything up a little bit. I'm going to use the fillet command, just F, and we're going to put roundovers on a lot of the edges, just very, very slight, because this is a very tiny thing. But also, this little corner here, I want to add a little bit of a roundover there. That'll actually add some geometry. If we do 1 millimeter. Yeah, there's a little bit of a ramp there. There we go. And then we can go in one more time and grab these edges here. And these edges here, and round those over a little bit too. Just slight. Just a little bit of a detail piece there. And that is going to be our Combadge. The only thing left would be just to put a couple holes through it. I actually want to be able to magnet this to my shirt. So we're going to punch a couple of holes right through this that we can put some magnets in. And that'll be just a hole up here. And a hole down here, kind of centered. And we'll make those the diameter of our magnets. We have some, I'll have to go measure them exactly, but they're about 3 millimeters, 3.15 millimeters in diameter. Like that, and then I can diameter this hole here to match. And then all we have to do is take these holes and do another extrude like that, and it'll punch a hole through the back there. So now we can install the magnets through there and then cover them with this plate. You'll never see it. And then we can stick it on our refrigerator or on our shirts or whatever we want. But that is the 3D modeling all done. It took me less than 10 minutes, and this is a great beginner project. And like I said, we've got that course, that Fusion 360 course for sale over on our website if you want to dive into learning this even more. For now, we're ready to start setting up our custom paths for CNC, but first, we're going to 3D print this too. We're going to put this in the resin printer that we have so that we can compare a printed part to a CNC'd metal part. So we're printing the parts on our resin printer here. Willow, the shop supervisor, showed up to help out. So helpful. Yes, that's right, Willow. We're printing those parts really just as a comparison to the CNC parts. Those that's right. We are going to sand and finish them and paint them just to see if we can get it close to the metal parts. It'll be fun to compare. It's true. It's true. Always full of insight, this one. Time to do the CNC work, and I've got my stock material here. I have a piece of brass, but we're going to start with this thin sheet of aluminum to cut out the insert. Should be the easiest operation. And we're going to stick it down to our build area here with a little trick I learned. Work holding is one of the more important things when it comes to CNC type stuff. And I've seen a lot of people use masking tape for this. So instead of clamping it down, you can see I have a separate piece of wasteboard material that we'll chew into. Instead of clamping it down with these clamps, I'm going to clamp this down with tape and glue. So we'll put tape on both of this surface and the back side of the piece that we're going to cut out, and then we'll glue them together. So this piece of tape and that piece of tape will get super glued together, and I think we want it to go in that position. So put a bunch of glue down, and this should hold it for the duration of our operations here, but we should still be able to peel it up once it's all done. I've never done this before, so we'll see how it goes. Here's the first piece we're going to cut out. It's a nice small piece. The first thing I'm going to do is have it come in and trim the face of it down to the appropriate thickness, and then it's going to come in and cut the whole thing out for us. That should be it. This should be a pretty quick little operation. That's 0 for the Z. 0 the X and Y. Done. Cool. I think we're ready to start. Oh no! I broke a bit. I broke a little 16th inch end mill, a flat end mill, and it's the only one I have. And I've ordered some more. But I think what I did was I didn't account for the thickness of the tape under there. It actually raised this up a little bit, so it did this first pass a little too deep. We'll fix that for next time. This piece here, I can cut out with an 1/8 inch bit. This is a little bit bigger, and I should be able to cut out this part with this bigger bit. And I have extras of these while I wait for my 16th inch bits to come in. I do still need those smaller 16th inch bits. You can see, here's our 3D print, which is all finished up here. The smaller bit is to get the little corners inside of here. In fact, I realized that my 3D model was incorrect. I actually modeled it for a bigger bit like this. So I went into Fusion and just tweaked those radiuses until they were the right size. So we're gonna have a new 3D print with the accurate diameters in there, or radius, and then we should have some smaller bits to cut out all of these little parts on here. But for now, I have a new piece of aluminum and this 1/8 inch bit, and we should be able to cut that out. No problem this time. I'm sure of it. That went great. It was also really quick, like 3 minutes. Hey! There we go. There's our part. Piece of cake. This will just need to get sanded. All the parts will need to get sanded so that they're nice and smooth and shiny, but that looks all right. It's amazing how flat this feels because it doesn't look flat, but it got cut really, really smooth. We will sand this until all these marks are gone, but I just think that looks neat. I had to wait a couple of days, but I got the right bits to replace the one that I broke. In fact, I got 10 of them in case I break some more. It's likely. I've got the brass all set up too, and we're going to try and cut out the main badge body piece now. I have a bunch of operations queued up in the cam in Fusion 360. Let's see how it goes. Our first set of operations worked really well. Hard to film. We have the dust boot over it most of the time so that it collects all the dust with the vacuum like that. But it worked great. There's a pair of holes here that will accept these magnets and they fit just perfectly. There's one, whoop, and the other. You'll believe that they fit perfectly. Look at that. Now we have a few more operations to run with this fancy machine. All of our operations are done. It looks like it went really well. It's time to rescue our part from the machine here. So the double-sided tape prevented me from having to have tabs, which is great. And hopefully I can just remove our little piece right there. Oh, that looks so good. A little cleanup on the edges there, and then of course a whole bunch of sanding to make it all shiny and pretty, but that looks pretty fabulous. It is time to sand our little metal bits until they are perfectly shiny. And for that, I've got this rig here. I don't know if I've ever shown this off. This is where I keep all my sandpaper. Got it starting at 200, going all the way up to 2000 over here. I have sanding blocks. I have this thing here to cut sandpaper. Very handy. I've got a bunch of little sanding twigs, and these look like dangerous Q-tips, but they're little sanding sticks. And some filler, of course. This is my sanding battle station. And we'll start at I think 200 grit maybe with these metal parts and see if we can sand our way up until they're nice and shiny. Let's get ourselves half a sheet of this 220 grit. Line this up right there on the horizontal half sheet line. And then there's half a sheet. Just do that until all those lines are gone. There's a burr on the back of this as well. We can do the same thing to get rid of that. There, back for back. So I know that's the back. I don't need to finish this any more than that. Just saving myself a little sanding. But the front, that needs some loving. I didn't do a finishing pass on this. I just cut it out on the first pass, and it's a little rough. The edges are a little rough. Not anymore. Some artifacts from the routing process there. We're just grabbing our needle files here to tidy those up a little bit. I feel like click spring. Gently filing some brass. Good day, everyone. Bill here. Today, we're making a Star Trek Combadge. Sorry, I completely dropped any hint of an Australian accent. Got my fancy little metal pieces here sanded to about 600 grit, and I think it's time for polishing. Got this polishing wheel right here, some polishing compound that'll get rubbed on it there. And that should bring it to its final finish. Should. Let's see how it goes. Ooh, so shiny. Oh, it looks so shiny. Oh, I love this so much. I'm just so addicted to making things out of shiny metal. Oh, it's so shiny. Let's do this. Yeah. Oh. Two to beam up. The final resin 3D prints are all done. Now it's time to sand and paint these. The painting on my resin printed parts here is done, but there were some problems. The Spaztics Mirachrome turned out great, no problem, clear coated it, awesome. But the Alclad polished brass, it looked good with the polished brass sprayed on there, but then I put the clear coat on it and let it dry overnight and it got all crackly. In fact, it did this twice. I sanded it and painted it again, and I took my time and it still got all crackly. And I'm not gonna paint this again. I'd rather get this project done. So we're gonna roll with it like this. If you look up close, you can see it's got this wacky texture on it, but that's all right. Now is the time to start putting all of our parts together, which is my favorite part. Let's do this. Well, at least this dried. And let's double check that everything still fits. I don't see why it wouldn't. It is a little snug. Actually, I did put a couple extra layers of paint on there, now that I think about it. And it looks like there's some right there I need to clean off. I think that wants to go in, but once I push it in, it's gonna stay. So let's get the glue ready. Boop. I'm gonna scratch this up on the inside a little bit so that the glue has something to grab onto. Not that I think this is ever gonna come out once it gets jammed in there. Here we go. Hold on to your butts. And in you go. Cool. Looking sharp. Let's do the metal one. Let's do the metal one. Pretty much the same thing here. Just more super glue. Spread this out a tiny bit. All right. This should just drop right in. Boop. Yeah. Oh, it looks great. One more thing. Magnets. Just the tiniest whiff of glue here. These are going to be snug. More snug than I thought. There we go. And that one. All right, still looking okay. Let's do the other one. Oh, one of them was snug, one of them was not. There we go. Ooh, yeah. Good and satisfying. It still looks good up front. I think that concludes it. I think that wrapped it up. To attach these, I cut out some pieces of steel that are magnetic. So that can go inside my shirt. In fact, let's try it right now. Perfect! That works great.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it does. Look at me. Let's get the other one on there. Ta-da! There we go. So it's two different versions of the same Combadge. I do wish I had nailed this paint job a little bit better, but it still probably looks pretty good. I'm curious, Britt, if you zoom out, like, do you see a pretty obvious difference between the two?
There's a reflection.
This one's quite a bit more reflective.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, in the actual television show, they would have made many different versions of this, probably a hero one if they needed a close-up of it getting picked up or like placed on someone's shirt. They'd have this really shiny, either machined one or one that's been chromed. And then they'd probably make a whole bunch like this. Instead of 3D printing it, they would probably mold and cast many of them and then paint them, kind of like we've done this one here. And then that gets handed out to the actors who are one row behind Jean-Luc Picard, the people who are in the background. In fact, I had a boss at one of my old jobs who worked on Next Generation, and he had the same comment about the phasers. They had like 3 hero phasers that were really, really nice, and Patrick Stewart got to use that if it was, you know, in a close-up shot. But for everyone in the background who got a phaser, they just had like a bucket of 2x4s that were painted gray. You just held onto a chunk of wood in the background. Pretty common thing to do in movie making and show making. So I'm glad we kind of got to showcase both of these. But I'll tell you what, this metal one here, I'm in love with it. It's so good. I don't have a Star Trek costume, but this will make a great fridge magnet. And these files right here to both print or CNC these, we'll put these up for free on our website if you want to grab them yourself and print your own. So thanks so much for following along on this fun little adventure. Having so much fun with that CNC machine. Again, thank you so much to Carbide 3D for sending the machine over. I'm learning a lot and I'm getting even more excited about what I can do with it. Thank you again so much to our Extra Credit Club. They keep the lights on around here. You can join over on Patreon or right here on YouTube. Just hit that join button. You support us financially, make us able to make these videos for you. So thank you so much. If you haven't gone over there to check out all the extra weekly videos we do, now's a great time to check it out. Links down below. That'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting, and I guess one to beam up. You'll just add the effects on top of that, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Totally.
I gotta make sure everyone knows this is how big the thing is that we're making. I'm squishing your head. Oh, why did this all get moved over? When did that happen? We're gonna let it do a thing. This is Willow. She has lots to say. Here, Willow, let's talk about the printer. To attach these, I cut out a little computer. Actually, that's going to trigger the Alexa, isn't it?
I don't know that.
See? Yeah. That's
Computer, stop.